thanks a lot for coming to this last meeting of KEEP. And I am Sophie Charpentier, for those who don't know me. I'm leading the project and I will also lead the meeting today. So the agenda today is very packed. So we are starting now to kind of arrive at the end in good time. I will make a very short introduction. I have asked GS1 to talk about the importance of international standard. After that, we will have 4 pilots that will present their work, and I will have some closing remarks. And it will go very fast. So there will be a few minutes for questions, I hope, in every one of these pilots, but please use the chat function to complement, because it might be that there's not enough time for all the questions. So the introduction that I will do is about the project. And I'm leading the project, but it's by no means a one-woman show. We are a project management team. So Kalle, which is in the meeting today, will also help moderate the discussions, and Max has also been there in almost all the project. And in total, we are 23 organizations and KEEP. So Chalmers, Industriteknik, and Boyd, which are leading the project. There's then 21 other organizations, 4 from outside of Sweden. We have US, Netherlands, UK, and Norway represented. And then the 19 others are Swedish. KEEP has started in the mind of my colleagues 7 years ago, and they were wondering if it would be possible to create some sort of system where you would have information about a product. It was not, no one had coined the term digital product pass back then, and it was like a pre-study. So it was what would be that system and what would be the use of such a system for everyone in the value chain. And what the system is basically you have a product. On the product, you have a code. You scan the code with something. In that case, the code is a QR code and you're scanning with a phone. And by doing so, you're having information about the product. The information at the moment is ill-defined. So it could be component information. It can be warranty information. It can be anything that you want information. This is this is an example of what the digital product pass, for those who know the term, would be right now. And that first study, we identified 3 circular goals that would be able to be achieved using such a system: promote material recycling and reuse, and facilitate sustainable production. And to this, I would now add 2. It would be 1, helping people to make more sustainable choice because they will know more about the product that they're buying. And the second one would be to help authorities verify compliance. And this is where the EU part is coming. In the second part of KEEP, then it was much more in-depth and developing a prototype. I'm flashing the important result of each step right now, but there's much more on our website. So if you're interested in this, you should go there. And the prototype is an example of how you present decentralized information or information that are coming from multiple sources in a unified interface. For those who are in Sweden, this is like the Hemnet of product, but much more advanced. You can try the prototype if you just want to click through and see how this looks on our website, keepelectronics.com. And if you want to Frankenstein some thing with the front end of the prototype, you're also welcome to do that. And KEEP 3, we have made this available on GitHub on a non-commercial license. So KEEP 3, the phase that we are closing now, I started at the end of 2021, and we are now part of the Trace for Value umbrella project. I will not say more about this project because yesterday we had multiple hours meeting about that. You're more than welcome to see the videos from these meetings. So there was 1.5 hours on Trace for Value and 1.5 hours on another project that's called Trust for Value in Swedish, for those who speak Swedish, after. And the recordings are already available. So you're more than welcome to look at that. But it's several projects on traceability that are learning from each other and sharing best practices, basically. And what did we do in phase 3? We did many things, but I regrouped basically these things under three general parts. The first one is that we discussed around standard and regulation a lot. I have my next picture is on regulation. Let's see how much time I spent on that. Then we had pilots, and then this is very hands-on tests where we have companies find each other. So companies that have like aligned interest, that want to work together, to test things together. We are basically documenting this to have best practice and learnings from that. And the third thing is the use cases. We did this since a long time in Keep, but this time it was very much more concrete. So basically, how will traceability system or digital product pass be used in reality? By talking with people that are already kind of using data in their work life. So where are they now, and what DPP would allow them to have extra, and what data would they need to have? So that's what we called use cases. I said this yesterday, I will say it again. The reason why I put the puzzle here is that basically the digital product pass is a very big puzzle. For one thing, no one knows exactly what's on the picture at the moment because everyone is still testing things. There's several layers. What would be the content? How will it work in practice? And what I see our contribution is basically that we had a number of pieces, and we've been working in the corner of the puzzle where we clarified the image in that corner. So to be able to have the overview, was an important point. This is our contribution. And now I see the times. I will not spend a very long time on this. There's a number of regulations that are very important when we're talking about traceability, and the main one that is coupled to the DPP is what is called the ESPR, or the Eco Design for Sustainable Regulation. The long-term goal is that every product sold in the European Commission or on the EU market will possess a DPP, and this will start from 2027. So this is like the short version of something that is much more complicated than that. We have a partner in Keep that has made the list of all the relevant regulation for home electronics. After I'm done, I will paste the link to that. And it's a Google Drive document where people are welcome to check what has been already there. And if they feel that we forget that something has been overlooked, they can add to it. So it's like a communal document right now. So the picture looks very simple, but when you start talking about regulation, it's a jungle. So it's much more complicated than what this picture is showing. So with that, I will stop my introduction. I will stop my sharing as well. And I will leave the floor to Karolin from GS1, which will tell us about international standard.
Yes. And tell me if or when you see the screen.
We see it. Thank you.
You see it. Perfect. All right. Okay. I think that many of us are aware about GS1 and what we are doing. So I will not be spending so much time about GS1 as the organization. I will show you this one. I call this a vision of a circular value chain. I think this is the future vision of the value chain we are facing to fulfill the different requirements, but also to streamline the process to be able to share data between stakeholders in the global value chain and in an efficient way. What we want to do is to share relevant data, but also accurate data. And we also want the data to be real and true. So to speak, rely on actual figures and not just templates. And we can also see, and we know that the current value chain suffers from waste, limited transparency, and also traceability. With this in mind, there are requirements and challenges along the value chain, and I'm 100% sure that we are aware of all of them. There we are. What screen do you see? I'm showing something else.
We see a kind of light blue gray screen. Within the middle, you have your circle.
We have the circle, yes. Okay. Then it's a couple of things missing, but never mind. The journey of the product starts with the raw material, of course. Depending on the product type, these raw materials come from all over the world. For batteries example, cobalt and nickel comes from Africa. And as a consumer, we want more information about where products come from and whether they are, for example, purchased and produced in an ethical way, free from child labor, and with minimal environmental impact. Next phase, we have the manufacturing. It is a critical phase consisting of many different events and activities. And imagine that most products, they are not single components, but a large collection of different parts. And each of the parts have their own history and data. And all that data, we are supposed to share, not all data, but a lot of data we are supposed to share amongst each other. Next step in the wheel, we have distribution. Maybe not the most important part, but it still has an impact if we think of climate footprint and other things. Last but not least, we had a remanufacturing and redistribution part. The product life cycle refers to the process of moving a product from one part in the life cycle to another. And that may involve various activities, such as remanufacturing, repacking, repairing, and then selling to a new customer. So to achieve circular value chain, all stakeholders, you see like a white picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there are some, oh, there you go. Now you see the internal process, right?
We do, yeah.
Good. All stakeholders need to take responsibility, both regards to the internal processes, but also to the external processes to exchange information between stakeholders. And I'm sure that we have talked about interoperability a lot of times. The ability to exchange and use information. Maybe current way today is not as efficient as it wanted to be, but there are enablers. And now we come to the GS1 part. GS1 standards is one of the enablers. Our mission is to develop a common digital business language, an efficient and simple way for companies to communicate. A digital business language that works both on the local market, but more important than ever, to work on the global market as well. We bring companies and industries together and support them in developing a common digital language. 4 important things for GS1. We are global. No matter where you are in the world, you can always have support and use the GS1 standards. We are neutral, not for profit. We are user driven. We have user groups. It's important for us that there is a need to develop something. GS1, we are not allowed to say that do this, do that. There need to be a need. We are open. Standards can be used by everyone. And probably you have also seen the toolbox we have, or the recipe for, or the ingredients for the recipe that GS1 have. You know the identification part, GITIN, global trade item number, GLN, shipments. We have the 2D QR and also the standards for sharing the data. So I will actually skip this one and move forward to digital product passport and what GS1 as an enabler in this part. DPP is just one of many regulations. This is the design features. And I think Sophie already talked about this, so I will just move to, there's a list of prioritized product groups. We have textile, iron, steel, and the right approach is towards decentralized, not a centralized solution. You're not locked into any particular software. You leave the data where it is, but link the data together when needed. There will be public and restricted data. Mostly the restricted data is for market surveillance. We have authority, customs, and other agencies that need information. We will have different levels of granularity, how to identify the product, depending on the product category. And the economical operator is often the manufacturer or the importer putting the DPP on the market. And just to make it a little bit more clear that when we look at, this is an excerpt from the ESPR, it's a general requirement for the product passport. And what it says is that you need to have a unique identity over time on the product. And GS1 already have that. We have the GTIN, we have the serialization. You need to have a 2D barcode or a 2D code or a barcode on the product, following the standard ISO 15459 or equivalent. Data according to open standards, interoperable format, and machine readable structure and readable. No lock-in effects for technology suppliers. It's not allowed. So the raw material is the first data for the digital product passport. Already in GS1, we have standards that can be applied. GTIN for the product example, we have GLN for the operator. We have other standards as well. And the methodology is that the next phase, the manufacturer in yellow, you see in the upper corner, the DPP is filled with more information. And the same for the distributor. We have the consumer, we have the disposer, redistribution, and so forth. So an example of the outcome when using the GS1 standards with DPP, the stakeholder scans the barcode or the QR code probably. You can get access to a lot of information. Product data, traceability, certificate information, recycling, etc. By using the GS1 standard digital link. You see in the upper part, HTTP domain name together with the structured, standardized way of expressing for an identity, for example. And then you have, you could use a resolver to redirect to the source of the data. So an example is to have the data from the certificator as an example. So this is just an example of what kind of data we could have. Climate footprint for each product step, country of origin, third-party certification. We have product category information about the material and so on. And I said in the beginning, it's not just about DPP. We have other, when we do this, there could be other benefits. It's not just, it is about the DPP, but by doing this, we have other benefits as well. By using the raw data we have, we can also be aligned with other regulations and have a better, more effective supply chain, better traceability, etc. 11 minutes. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Karolin. David Larsson from Trapper, you're next. I will just comment while you're sharing your screen. Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you, Carol. I just want to say, in general, standards, people, everyone that I talk to that are a bit like, oh, standard, that's complicated. They have their own in-house standard practice, which they don't maybe call standard, but the minute that you need to talk with other people, as you said, interoperability is super important. So there's really an importance of having a common language for that. The second comment that I want to make is about the decentralized thing, because there was a lot of question in another event a few weeks ago. Decentralized doesn't mean blockchain. It means that there will not be one repository on the European Commission servers that will have the data of everyone's product. So it could be centralized, like pockets of centralized data, but it doesn't mean that the blockchain necessarily. And in general, that's not the solution that people agree will be the first one that will work for everyone. David, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I am just going to try to get this in presentation mode. Do you see my screen?
We see the presentation leg. Yeah,
Perfect.
Now it's working. Perfect.
Perfect. So, to continue where Karolin left off, we were in work package 2 together with Blippa, and we tried in reality what Karolin was talking about. So for you who don't know us, we produce a line of products that are all about office ergonomics. Mainly Mouse Trapper, which is a line of centralized computer mice, really. Which make you work with your hands in front of the keyboard pretty much, so to prevent and relieve repetitive strain injuries. And so we provided the products and the customers, and Blippa have a nice front end and back end solution for the digital product passes. And since there is no standard yet, what we wanted with this was pretty much helping our customers. We asked our support, what do people want to know when they, or what our customers want to know when they contact us, and then we took it from there and started to tinker in-house how to set it up and to get the product passes to work in an efficient way. And so we do quality control on each product, where we already today save a lot of data. So they are pretty much individuals, but we don't use it for anything external, really. Today we only use it for statistics and to find the problems and so in our production. But there we thought we could build a link. So when a product is tested, we would have the first scan where the product would pretty much be born in the product pass. And then, since we also sell mostly to companies and bigger organizations can have a lot of our products, we thought it would be good to have the reseller involved as well, to help, for example, where the warranty is questionable. It's not always so easy for a big organization to find the right invoice for a specific product that was bought a year and a half ago. So there we thought it would be great if the reseller would scan the product and the warranty would start ticking from there, because that would help us and it would help the customer as well. So and in the end, we obviously wanted our customer to scan the QR code to register the product. It wasn't in this test case, that was not a problem at all, because our customer was in on it and knew they were in this test case. So, but how to make people do it in real life in the future, we have been playing with the idea of maybe offering extended warranty if you scan the code. But anyways, this was our idea of how it should work. In reality, we had to skip the reseller, both from time constraints and also since there is yet not really a standardization. And we also realized that we need to have a duplicate of the code, not only have it on the product, we also need to have it on the outside of the retail box. And we do not yet have a way to solve that, but I will talk more about that later. So anyways, we had to skip the reseller in this case, and we just chose one of our customers that we have a good relationship with to be in on the test to evaluate the customer experience of an actual product with a product pass. So the challenges we met in this test was to set up our hardware. It turned out to be trickier than we thought to get our barcode system to print the correct QR codes. And we also need to create the connection between the testing software that I talked about before with the DPP database. We need an API there, because now it was only in this test 10 products or something, which is easy enough to register manually. But if it's 10,000 products or 100,000 products, it needs to be automated so we don't create extra labor. And here we're thinking at the test stations, we would have a scanner pretty much like you have in your supermarket, that you just, once the test is concluded and the product is approved, you would just hold it over a surface and bleep it, and that would be it. So that is still something we need to do. And then it's also a hardware question, probably not very hard, but we need to somehow duplicate the labels to get it on the outside of the box too, so that our resellers can scan them easily. And then one issue, so we actually tried to register a customer, like a product return case. And then we noticed the problem we had spent exactly 0 seconds thinking about, and that was a worn out QR code. Because this actual code that you see here in the picture, we managed to scan with some issues, but we were able to. And this was a product that had been on a desk for a few months. So, you know, if it's been there for a few years, it would probably not have been possible to scan it at all. And then it doesn't really matter how good your flow is and how well thought out everything else is behind. So that's something we thought was a bit ironic. Probably not a very hard thing to solve either, but still it has to be solved. We probably need to change material that we print on, or maybe laser etch the QR codes or something like that. It can be solved, but it's worth mentioning because we didn't think about it. So it may be that others that are going to do this will not think about it either. So then we come to the actual customer that tried this. So here you see the front end, what you actually see, Blippa's interface. When you scan one of our products, you have your warranty information, you have a link to instruction videos or how to clean the product, whatever. You have your user manual. Product information would be everything from material to allergenic info, stuff like that. You return your product if you want a refurbished one instead. You service request, support, CO2 footprint, all of that good stuff. And our customer, who was Länsförsäkringar, which is a bank/insurance company in Sweden, got 10 of these products to try it. And we were in contact both with their IT people and the end users. And their experience was that it was simple to register it. Scanning worked fine. They did find the information very useful and easy to understand. They were very happy with the interface and usability. They did have some tips. So since we do business to business to a large extent, the IT department at Länsförsäkringar thought it would be great if there could be a company portal, so they could go in there and see how many of our products they have in rotation, how old they are, if they have any service claims ongoing or finished, that kind of stuff, which is a very good idea. Makes sense if it's a bigger organization that by a lot of these. And from the end user, they thought, since we are in ergonomics and work health, the work health field, they thought it would be good if they could get tips and tricks, like maybe little exercises, stuff like that, that could be added value and an actual reason to scan the code. And maybe in our case, more legit than extended warranty, since most of our users get our products from as a tool from their employer. They probably don't care about the length of the warranty. That's probably more efficient if people buy it with their own money. But in this case, probably a better idea to have something that help them feel better at work. So that's pretty much our takeaway from this test case.
Thank you, David. I will jump in with a few questions, and I think we even might have a minute or two to open the floor to somebody in the audience. If you have anything, you can write in the chat, as Sophie said before, or you can ask David personally. But I want to kickstart this with asking, I mean, just regarding the last part here, what do you think is the most important piece of information for the customer, in this case Länsförsäkringar, and does that reflect, do you think, other customers who might have the same view, or does it differ, you think?
For them, I think it's probably the ease of if something goes wrong, like the ease of finding everything you need. You don't even have to think about going into some homepage, finding the support number or stuff like that. You have everything if you just scan the QR code. And from that, you get in touch straight with us. And that's something that their IT department was very happy about. And I think they actually had a good constructive idea about setting up company portals. Exactly how we would do that, I'm not quite sure, but I don't see it as impossible at all. But I think that was their biggest takeaway. And from the users, I think, aside from when something goes wrong, I think the most common question we get is probably about allergens and stuff like that. You know, I'm allergic to rubber. Does your product contain any rubber? Stuff like that.
Right. Interesting. Good.
Yeah.
What would you say is for you guys, for your sake, the most sort of valuable thing that you've learned in this setup in, you know, preparation for the upcoming DPP?
Good question. Probably it was probably that about the QR code have to be very durable, because after all, our products will spend their life on a desk and it will rub back and forth a little bit. So where we place it, so it's not too exposed, and print it on something where it won't come off.
Right. Great. Do we have Daniel or Mickey in the meeting as well? I thought I saw your name before, right?
Yes,
in that case,
I think that Michael is also attending that.
Great. I do have a question for you as well, Daniel. We talked before about some benefits from your end as well, as Blippa. Do you want to tell us about your benefits coming from this pilot?
Yeah, absolutely. I see it's great when you actually get to know a company that has their own production, so you can go out to the site and you can learn about what their processes are and how they manage things, and that was very, very useful for us to understand, because every client is new. They have different demands, they have different data setup, they have different requirements. And when we look at the legal requirements that you have for the benefits of a digital product passport, GSF, the standard talks about the sustainability, traceability, transparency, and product safety, efficiency, and compliance. But I think that many of the unrealized benefits become very clear when you have the items out in production. When you look at services for the end consumer, you're looking at the product log, you're looking at different roles and access and overview. You have shared functions and data functions. You have, activation and deactivation. How does that happen in reality? And I think that those things become much clearer when you have a pilot going on and you can see the things in action.
Right. Perfect. Thank you. We do have a couple of more minutes. Do we have any questions from the audience to either Blippa or Trapper Data? There's a question in the chat here to Trapper. This is from Alexander. Do you see also if that Länsförsäkringar could connect the info/QR code/ID to their internal asset management system, if they would have such a system, to be able to track all the products that they have from you, David?
I mean, that would be a possibility, I suppose. It would probably be easier that way because it's easier for them to know what products they have them for. Because our problem is that we don't know where the products go pretty much after they leave us, or until someone register them. Even in this case, if the reseller was in on it, we would just see that the product was sold on this day, but not to who. So I think that is probably a better idea, but maybe that would be a co-op somehow where we could help them.
Right. Perfect. One last thing from Doug.
Yes, yeah, Doug Lundén here. Just a question: if you should have this system that you have applied now and scaled it up to be a fully functional DPP product platform, how much more work do you think you need to spend on getting it working in industrial scale, so to speak? What do you think?
Not much really. It's creating the API between our testing program and DPP platform. That would be a one-time thing, but we have planned it out so that it wouldn't create more work in production, really, because we do put a label on anyways. Today it just has barcode, and here it would have a QR code, and we already scan our products when we put them inside the box, and we would still scan them even with the QR code. So I don't think it would be much more work for us, at least not what we can foresee right now. So it's a one-time thing. It's probably a couple of weeks work for one of our developers to do the connection link there, but after that and we need to buy some hardware, but aside from that we should be good to go in not too long.
Good question. All right, thank you all, and thanks to Trapper and Blippa for this presentation. I will leave the floor to the Telia versus Circularise pilot. I believe that Maria, possibly from Circularise, will start us off. Yeah. So please go ahead.
Let me quickly share my screen. So please let me know if you do see the slides and the entire screen.
We do, yeah.
Yes, okay, perfect, thank you. So I'll be talking about the pilot that we had between Circularise and Telia that will be regarding the traceability of the component within Telia. So just a really brief overview of Circularise. Circularise is a company that enabled the traceability of supply chains based on the public blockchain platform that we have developed, and we enable the traceability also by ensuring the security of data sharing and ensuring that the sensitive information is not really shared outside of what partners want to share it with. So currently, as has been mentioned before in this meeting, there are a lot of different regulations within the EU that every day are more and more towards the transparency and the traceability of supply chains, as we have talked about the digital product passport and others. So there is a huge need about having this traceability and transparency in supply chains, as well as also customers and different companies asking more and more questions about where do products come from, what are they made of, where will they end up, and going also towards the circularity initiatives. It's also a matter of companies wanting to share whether the components are recycled, bio-based, organic, and different is what we built need for Circularise. So how has things been made so far? Again, it's mostly about emails, chain transport, for example. The company sends an email to their suppliers, and their suppliers don't have the information, so they will have to send an email back to their suppliers, and this tends to go on and on and on and on. This is a very labor-intensive task that will take a long time, and sometimes even they do not have data up to date. So that's happened with the centralized databases, that the data could be outdated, or that partners don't want to share, companies don't want to share the information with just one entity. So again, where Circularise comes, and we have developed a platform that can enable the secure data sharing among the value chain stakeholders. So for example, as you see in here, by scanning a QR code, you get the different information or the different details about what is in here, for example, a battery. So you can really determine within your value chain what data, what information is relevant for you to share. So you have, for example, as you see in here, manufacturing sites, certifications, GHG emissions. So not only LCA data, but also sourcing, composition, and other chemical, physical properties. The KEEP project, what we did is interaction with Telia itself to be able to trace one of the components, one of the products that it's a router. And what you're seeing here in the screen is basically the flow of the component that we trace. So it started with two tiers before the suppliers, so the charger manufacturer as well as the router manufacturer, going with the next stakeholder, and then we even included downstream stakeholders such as the end-of-life operator. So once a router is going to be refurbished or reused or repaired, and also the end-of-life for the recycling part. So the circular system really enables to cover the full spectrum of stakeholders in the value chain. So what we did is first determine what are the data points. So as you saw before, what are the questions that will be shared, or what will be the information shared among the different stakeholders based on the needs of the manufacturer, in this case of Telia. What did they want to know from their suppliers, and what will they want to share with their further customers or stakeholders downstream? And what we got is this chain of custody that you're seeing right now. You will be able to see the different components that go through the value chain in this Sankey diagram, and how much of them were shared among the different stakeholders. Where have they been? So as you see in here, a damage road, for example, going to repair, and then the end of life router going to example that was. And the different components within the value chain, you can hear the different information that was shared by that stakeholder. So for example, if I am the end-of-life producer, I can click on the charger, and then I will see the information that the charger manufacturer had shared before about this component that was shared in the full value chain. And for example, if I click on a different component here, for example, the router PCB, then I will get the information regarding that PCB component within the dashboard itself. So if I am interested in multiple other components, then I can just click on each of them, and then I will get the information that I need in order to comply with different regulations, or also to do my own internal processes. So in general, the value of the DPPs is that it enables the regulatory and standard compliance, because we have the traceability of the different components, where have they been, and then we can say for sure and have this validated data that a component doesn't come from certain places, or whether it's recycled, how much recycled content, for example, be able to track this LCA information, CO2 footprints, etc. and share safety and technical protocol specifications. So if it has any chemical that is not really allowed, that is harmful for humans. And of course, it will enable to improve the value chains that will then transform into more resilient value chains and even visualize new revenue streams that is possible, because now we see if there are other parts that we can use from a product. So yeah, this is just a little overview, and now we'll leave the floor for our partner in Telia, as he will be sharing also a little bit of some insights on how the pilot was.
So
Thanks,
sorry.
Maria.
Yeah, so sorry, I had some problems there. Okay, good. Thanks, Maria. Just to give you some what we have found now during this trial or piloting, 3 things I would say. One is it takes time, enormous amount of time. We had quite much of discussions regarding EPR issues, agreements, sensitivity issues, what to reveal, how much information is stored in the system, and since these are also the material, quite much of the data comes from our third-party supplier, our suppliers and their supply chain. So it's quite a sensitive discussion, and since much of this is not set from the start, we were forced to try to define it ourselves and find a way to solve this. If to be implemented properly, I would say that this needs to be set by either the Commission or through delegated acts or something else to set this, to have this as a swift and a proper implementation to be revealed, as well as the agreement. I mean, you will have a software to use for platforms to store information, but how is the information that's stored, who is responsible, who should have access, these kind of issues needs to be settled in some way, and this will generate quite much of confusion if not set properly from the start. That's one thing that we learned. That took quite much of time. What we have also found quite interesting when also looking into this Circularise model is that you can find quite much of product related data, material flow data, that is very good. However, as you see this in this chunky diagram, and you can see the total material flow, but the problem I would say is not from a mass perspective the 90% of the weight related to metals, for instance. It's maybe the conflict minerals or the information related to more sensitive information. You can find it in the information, but you need to scroll down. You need to dig down in the tool, and also have access into that. And that was also like, yeah, we need to think what is really useful for the user. How should they access? And that gave me quite much of a aha moment here, really little eureka moments here. Yeah, you need to think in another way. And here you have also the issue here, how to trace individual devices. Now we are talking about the flow for a batch or for a general solution. But if we are talking about a mobile phone that you repair, or a router in this case, how to handle the add-on for that individual device. Should that be traced in this system as well, or should we keep it on a generic way? It can be discussed, depends on what the regulator then in the end will come out to. And finally, this is also another time-consuming thing. We reached out to our main supplier for our router and found out that, yeah, we will respond within 1 week or so. Then they came back after 1 week and said, yes, we will respond, but it will take another 2 months. And now we are continuing that dialogue as well. So these dialogues with suppliers located in Europe, still they have their sub-suppliers need to bring in information from their sub-suppliers, T3, 4, 5, takes enormous amount of time, just to be aware of that. So I would say time. This is not, if time is the critical part, I would say you need to have quite much of it. Resources is one thing, but you need to have really engagements and time in the dialogue. So this will continue. My 3 minutes.
Nicely put, Dag. Thank you.
welcome.
And thanks so much to Maria as well for your presentation. I think the show must go on to the next one. But you do have one question in the chat, Maria. If you want to answer that, by writing, you're welcome to.
Oh yes, thank you.
And then we will leave the floor to El-Kretsen, also a pilot done together with Blippa. So I think Fredrik, right? Might want to take over.
I got to unmute myself, so thank you. I will try to share the presentation. Yes, thank you. This is a pilot that's been achieved with the help of Blippa, and Daniel approached El-Kretsen at one of the meetings we had with GIAB. So those meetings are very good for networking, and really good that Daniel introduced us. The main purpose of the project that we've done and the pilot is that we want to have better control of how and where we are collecting batteries. El-Kretsen as an organization is a producer responsibility organization, and we have we sell the service to provide this to producers in the Swedish market. And we have about 10,000 collection points for batteries. Now we are talking small batteries that you have in your remote control or fire alarm or something like that. So it's not big batteries that are in industrial use or in electrical vehicles. So these are collected at something that we call återvinningsstationer, where also the packaging and plastics and metal and glass for household are collected. So what we wanted to have more knowledge about is where they are, where are they suited to be at that place, what's the volume, and how often do we need to collect these, because there is no way to get feedback. I wouldn't say no way, but there is no economical way to get feedback on if this container is full or not. And we would also need information about is there a lot of vandalism, or are there issues with the containers that we need to address. And we also want to be able to get more information from the users that are disposing their batteries. And we also want to give the feedback about what they could do with it, because usually we have very little contact with the end user and have the possibility to give information about the products they are trying to dispose of. This is not the DPP that you would most likely present. What we are in the end of waste, and there is some takeaways that we could make from this. I will try to come back to them in the end, but mainly we are trying Blippa's concept, and I would say it's been a very easy way to get access to this. These pictures are from the interface that the public view are able to access. So by just clicking the QR code that you saw in the other picture, you get this view, and you can get information about when it was last emptied. If it's full, you could send information to us that it needs to be emptied. You can also give feedback, as I was said in the former slide. And we also have the possibility to report if there's something wrong or if you have some improvement to share. And the gain from this is mostly that you don't really need an application on your phone or a special type of phone. If you just have a camera and a slightly modern cell phone, you can get this interface and you can start communicating with us, and you can also get information about what kind of products you can make disposal of in this container. If you would pull this to the next level, if we had QR codes or some other information carrier on the products that could be met already in the home, and you could also find where could I dispose of. So you can find this collection point. That information we don't have today, but that could be an extension for like Blippa to have in their product. And you ask, where can I dispose this in the best way, or is there any other way to make use of this product? The next phase in the collection is the transporter. The transporter is the one who is, emptying them and also doing the maintenance, like replace them if they are broken, or replace the QR codes and stuff like that. And mostly what this give us for kind of value is also that there is no platform needed. El-Kretsen have an application and a system built for the transportation that we have from a collection point that we call återvinningscentraler, where the bulk of all the electrical waste are collected. But with the help of Blippa, we didn't need any infrastructure. We just use their platform. So it's very convenient. This is the view that we use. We have the information about these battery boxes, where they are seated, and if we would add another layer to this, it could be maybe a layer of where is the density of the people living in, for example, Katrineholm. It could also be information about where is certain infrastructures, like where is the train station, where do I have supermarkets, and we could place our collection points at those places. So it's also a way to get more efficient collection in Sweden for small batteries. This project was carried out in Sörmland, like you saw in the picture before, Katrineholm, and also Vingåkerflen, Gnesta, and the last one to be included was Norrköping. It's a larger city regarding to the other ones. And the only really issue that we have stumbled upon was that it's not always easy to have mobile coverage, so you can actually access the web interface that you can get the information, both for as a public view, but also as a transporter. But it's very easy to use if you have mobile coverage. So the conclusion that El-Kretsen have, and I hope that Blippa is also sharing that view, is that this has so far been very successful, and it will give us good information, not just about how the collection are achieved, or where we should put our collection points, or increase, decrease, or do some other actions to improve our collection. So most likely we will expand this to more areas. Since the mobile coverage is an issue, I guess this will be where there is mobile coverage mainly, and also where we see the most value created from having this service, both to the public and to the collection companies that transport the batteries and also have some legal demands on them. For batteries, there is new legislation that's in action, and for small batteries, there will be a demand that you have some sort of product passports, I would say. So that will be increase the use of this kind of solutions, just like Trapper Data was presenting on products that could be also be on small products like batteries. And the only issues that we see is that there is a demand for having more rechargeable batteries that will lead to less volume. And that could also be a benefit for us, because that could be more important for us to choose where to collect and in which areas, and in close to infrastructure, as we're talking about. But the main purpose for us to test this is because we want what's coming next, not just for batteries, but also for products. We are more interested in how could we increase the material recycling? How can we get more information about the content of the product? Is there any risk from it? Is there any value that we should need? And also, we could also have information about end of life, which means that we could send that information back to the producer. And that would also be, I would say, fulfill the original thought about producer responsibility. The only big problem that we see that could threaten this in a slight way is that the collection close to the households that are more and more common with municipalities now could potentially be a showstopper, because then the collection will be at your local bin at home or at the basement of your high-rise complex of flats. I think that was my last slide, and I would say thank you. Tack in Swedish then.
Thank you so much, Fredrik. That was great. I see that you have a question in the chat, Daniel. You're welcome to ask it yourself, and also welcome to add your perspective on the pilot if you would like. If you have anything to add.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was a great project together with El-Kretsen. It's fantastic when you meet engaged people that are really on fire, what they want to build and what they want to do. So we worked close with Malin in the project, and she was a real talent. We had a question the other day that came up, and we talked to, as they have moved the responsibility from centrally to the municipals for the garbage collection or the återvinningsstationer. They mentioned that there was some sort of codes that you could use to verify what type of waste some specific products were containing to be able to map that to specific containers. Is that some public information that is available that you could get access to? Because that would be interesting for many of the producers to actually read those codes or provide that type of information to find the right recycle station or such.
That's not available, but it could be a potential benefit, a value created for the end user. And I think that would be the first step towards, because since day one, when we have been talking about KEEP and what we want to achieve, and I have also known that that is quite far away, because you have to start with the information and then the product life of the product, and then we receive it as a disposal, not always waste, but it could be different actions taken to the product. But the first step is to get more information to the user, who is like, if you use David's product as an example, if you have your trapper product, where should I dispose it? And so if we could connect that, if they, like David, they are members of El-Kretsen system, then they could get information. Okay, this says declared as a small product, and that's why I also said we could send back information to David that this product that you put on market on May 2001 is now disposed, end of waste. Then there will be valuable information for them about how is their product used and the lifespan and where did it end up. And it could also be added value for us to send materials back to David. Maybe he's interested in the plastics because he know that in that product we had this super plastic that's no hazardous waste in or something like that. We could exclude that product from the material flow and send it back to him either as product or treated and as a raw material. Of course, depending on the volume and everything, its costs and benefits, but it could also be spare parts. If you have some high value product that you know that is containing a part they are not uttjänta. They are not wasted, you know, they're more life. Electrolux did a test like that in the vacuum cleaners, and you could see that there were 80% more life still in the motors that are running the fans, which means that in theory, the motors could be reused. The vacuum cleaner, as its whole product was waste, but the motor as running the product had still 80% life in it. And with that kind of information, and if we have that knowledge, we could send materials or information or parts back to the producer, if they are interested, of course. But I think what's most valuable is to knowing that my products are also collected. What am I paying for? I'm paying for get this service on El-Kretsen. Okay, I could get information back that 90% of all my products are back now from this era. That could potentially mean that there are still products out there that are working or not. But it would give more information about how the products are achieving at the market, I would say. It might be a high-flying thought, I don't know, but everything is possible if you have information. And the best part of, like when I was talking to David the first time, was like, if you don't start, we have nothing to work towards, because we don't need all the information from day one. Like Doug also was saying, that the problem is to get the information, but if we just start to label the products with QR codes or other markings, then we could fill up more information as we achieve it and do more. So unfortunately, long answer for a short question. We don't have it today, but I would love to send that information back, and I would love to share where could I leave this have this API ready to be used for David and his product. So if Länsförsäkringar is trying to dispose one of their products because it's wasted, then they should just scan it and say, I want to dispose it, and they should get a link to where the nearest place to do a environmental good solution for it. So.
Great. Thank you, Fredrik. Good conclusion and good questions as well. Okay, moving on to the last pilot of the day, which is based on what they call the planetary model created by GIAB. I see that Andreas is getting ready. Hi.
Yes. Hi.
In the pilot was also Dustin, Lenovo, and Clas Ohlson. Just want to say that. And I'll leave the floor to you, Andreas.
Hey, thank you so much. I hope you have energy enough for the last session. I'll just share my screen here. Let me know when you see it. Can you see the screen now?
Yeah, in presenter mode.
Presenter mode, okay. But and now it's
yes.
Yeah, great. Yes, so my name is Andreas Anderholm Pedersen, and I work as the sustainability manager at GIAB. And just a few words on our business. We've been working with reuse as a core of our business for 12 years. So our entire mission is to prolong the life of products, and we do so mainly towards two different type of companies. So the first part is towards the insurance industry, where we take care of damaged products, we repair them and put them back on the market. And the other part is towards the e-commerce businesses, where we're taking care of returns, complaints, and damaged goods, where we're handling them in the same way, taking care of them and then putting them back on the market through Returhuset, which is our own e-commerce website. But now to the focus of this presentation. So as Kalle mentioned, in this scope, in the KEEP scope, we've tested our model that we call planetary model together with Dustin, Lenovo, and Clas Ohlson. And planetary model is a way of calculating the potential environmental benefit from prolonging the life of products through reuse. So we'll just talk very shortly of what the model is, and then I'll go on to talk a bit more about the test. So the model is based on science-based data, and when we say this, we mean that it's designed in accordance to the ISO standard for life cycle assessment, so ISO 14040. It uses data from EcoInvent, which is the world's most used database for LCA data, and it uses a vast variety of EPDs and LCA calculations for a large number of products and materials. The model in itself is an equation, and it's a quite simple equation, and it consists of 3 parts. So the first part is how we get the environmental impact from producing the product as new. And we get this, so when we get data from our customers or our collaborating partners, or in this test from Dustin, Lenovo, or Clas Ohlson, we get data of what kind of product it is. In many cases, there are product-specific data, so LCA data of how much CO2 that was emitted when a specific computer was produced. But in many cases, this is not the case. And what we've done here is that we've developed material recipes. So for instance, for a screwdriver, we know on a generic level that the screwdriver consists of a certain amount of metals, a certain amount of electronics, and a certain amount of plastics. And thanks to the LCA data on this specific materials, when we get weight of this materials or this product, we can then calculate what was the environmental impact of producing this screwdriver when it was new. So that's how we get the environmental impact from producing new products that we're prolonging the life of through reuse. And the second part of the equation is what perhaps is unique with our model, and this is something that we call a value ratio. So if you're familiar with the reuse sector, you're probably familiar with the concept of if you buy a second-hand phone, most actors are saying when you buy this phone, you're replacing the production of an entirely new phone. And we are claiming that this is false, because an older phone won't have the same life expectancy as a new phone. It is old, and it won't have the same battery life and so on. So here we use price basically as an indicator of life expectancy. So let's say that this phone had a new price of 1,000 euros. We managed to sell it secondhand for 500 euros. So we get a value ratio 0.5, meaning that we can say that we have replaced the production of half of the new phone. And the third part of the equation is where we deduct our negative impact in the reuse process. So all of our use of energy, all of our transportation that was needed, and all the packaging, repairing, putting in new spare parts in a specific product, all of that contributes to our negative impact in this process. And out comes then a result, which is the potential environmental benefit of reusing products. And this comes when you use EcoInvent, we get a lot of LCA data in certain impact categories, which you see to your left here. We transfer this LCA data into something that we call an impact report with certain KPIs for sustainability. And we've chosen these KPIs so that they are in accordance to the reporting standards that are coming from the EU now on sustainability reporting. So it will be easier for companies who are using these models to report on the correct things. And one thing that I would like to push a bit more on here is something that is called planetary point, which is basically a single score that weighs in all the impact categories that you see to your left here, so that you get the entire ecosystem value of a product. So the entire ecosystem value that we impact. So the ecosystem value that was the negative impact when the product was produced, and what we are avoiding when we are prolonging the life of a product. So we're taking a broader scope, and we're not just focusing on save climate emissions. We're looking at the entire ecosystem value of the products. And as for the test within the KEEP project, we got, thanks to Dustin, Lenovo, and Clas Ohlson, we got a data set of around 10,000 products divided on the product categories that you see on the screen here. And these are products that has been given a second chance in various ways. And when we push this product or this data set through the model, through the equation, we get these KPIs for sustainability. And some of them you might have a more relationship with, such as climate, but we've translated this into what we find more tangible things as so the amount of fresh water is equal to what 3,500 people can quench their thirst with in a year, or 32,000 showers and so on. But what I find most interesting with this model is this wider scope when we look at the impact, both the negative impact but also the positive impact from reusing products, meaning that we're not solely looking on climate. We are looking at the entire ecosystem value of a product through this indicator that we call planetary points. And I think it becomes really clear when you look at this slide here, especially for household appliances, where it does have a positive impact to on the climate to prolong the life of these. But when you take an ecosystem approach, it's much more larger than that. So to summarize, planetary model, sustainability data for sustainable future. The model is about taking into account all the planetary boundaries, not just focusing on CO2. It accounts for the total value of the product, so both the economic and the ecosystem value. It uses science-based data, and it also focuses on what we call the handprint of a product. So when we are prolonging the life of a product, we are contributing to a positive impact on our environment, which is our handprint. And this is what we are calculating and contributing with in our model and in this test that we performed within the KEEP project. Yes.
Very nice, Andreas. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like to invite any of the testees in this pilot project to comment if you want to. I saw that Henrik was in the meeting, Sandra perhaps as well, if you feel up for it. Otherwise, we can take questions in the chat or from the audience as well. I can ask a question in the meantime. Oh, I see that Henrik is popping up on the screen. Maybe you want to say something.
Yeah, I can have some short comment. Well, it is an interesting aspect to be able to communicate, I think, what we already do, and many companies maybe already do on repairing products and selling them again, and giving them a second life in some way, either taking spare parts or just be able to repair them and selling them again and visualize that, I think very understanding way to
and I totally agree, and we, with all the EU regulation coming now with green claims, we need to have robust data that we can fill our claims with, and we have that now for companies that have circularity as a base of their business model, but also things such as CSRD. When companies are doing their double materiality analysis, companies will need to report on both their negative impact but also their positive impact. So this is a way of making that possible as well.
Yeah, I think also understand both in an cost economic way and also in an environmental cost, which products have the hugest benefits of handling in a different way, I think. And it's it's more transparent and visualizing tool to see the effects of what you do, I think.
Yeah. And in connection to the theme of this of the KEEP project or the DPP, I mean, if the model is dynamic, so whenever we get the LCA of a certain product, you know, we build our own database so we can show more true numbers for all of the coming products that are in the model. And if we will have, you know, the material composition of all products that are coming to our facilities or externally, as we've tested in the test here, it would be possible to give an even more correct number on both handprint and footprint of the product.
What is it you think, Andreas, that you can sort of contribute with or give value to companies such as Clas Ohlson when it comes to the DPP legislation or other sort of regulations like that?
I think it's, as I mentioned earlier, it has to do both with communication. I mean, with green claims, there is a discussion of, you know, both green hushing and so on. Will companies, how will they communicate with something that in its core is a positive thing? To prolong the life of a product, we're lowering the pressure on Earth resources, and thus we are avoiding emissions. And now we can put a number on that. When we don't have product-specific data, it's based on averages, but we can, you know, every time we get a product-specific data, we get a better and better model. So we're just trying to say to companies that it's good to communicate, it's good to show both handprint, because a lot of the discussion when it comes to sustainability today is about focusing on your negative emissions and how to lower these. Now we want to turn that discussion into how can we create a positive impact and how can we create a handprint. And I think that's a really important part of the transition story. And the second aspect is definitely about reporting, creating a more standardized way, using ISO standards on how to calculate the potential positive impact on prolonging the life of products.
Yeah, right. We have time for one more short comment from Doug. Last one.
I don't know whether it's short, but it's...
Keep it short, please.
Yeah, okay, I try to. Regarding the life cycle assessment, I mean, it's a good approach. However, as you know, it's not the lack of standard that's the challenge. It's the lack of standard among the practitioners to do the life cycle assessment. So there is a huge variations in between how to perform the scope allocation. How did you address the issue of different way of performing a life cycle assessment and the outcome? I mean, if you're talking about just one screwdriver, that's quite easy. But if you're talking about different mobile phones, smartphone, if you have Samsung or Apple, they show different values, even though the problem here is probably not that they are that big difference in between mobile phones, but more that they have different way of doing the LCA.
Yeah. So we have a close collaboration with Emilia Giraffe, who's the company that we collaborated on with this. So I mean, they are the experts and can tell you all the give the detailed answer to these questions. But as I mentioned, the model is dynamic, and with that I mean that we are building a database when we have product-specific data for a certain mobile phone. The model will use that, but when we don't have that, we will have the generic number for a certain mobile phone of a certain size. And when we don't have that, we will use the material recipes. So it's all about you know, creating a dynamic approach, because what we want to show is the specific impact from a specific product. But when we don't have that, we have the flexibility to show something based on this ISO standard that we used in our approach. I hope that was a good answer.
Thank you.
Doug is smiling, so I'm assuming he's somewhat satisfied.
It was what I expected,
Okay.
but from a data quality perspective, you will have a challenge with that. But that's another story.
Yeah, but we have an ongoing collaboration on how to And you know, we are writing I think 3 different forskningsproject, science research projects on how to develop this further. So it's yeah, but now it's released and we're working to improve it further.
Good. And Miljöchef is they are great persons. They know their stuff. So they are not the problem here. I will say the source of data is the problem. As always.
Thank you guys. Thank you everyone that has talked today. I made a few notes during the presentation. I have 2 slides after that, so we will finish kind of exactly at 4. From what you saw today in every pilot, there was not just one actor, there was at least 2, if not more. So this is just a reminder that this is a complex problem and the solution will not be found by working alone, and there's really strength in working together. It's good to start on a small or a smaller scale to learn how things work, but the important thing is to start. Something you said, David, there was one thing we thought about 0 second and it turned out to be a problem. This is like the importance of starting small.
Definitely.
It takes time to get things moving, both internally and externally. Again, the power of starting right now. Something that you said, Fredrik, and I think you're very good with this, is when it's connected to the use cases, it's been discussed at length what the traceability system or the digital product pass could be used for, but it's important when we're talking about the information to collect to keep in mind what value it creates, and not just like, oh, it would be good to have this and it would be good to have that, to have like a system that's immense and that serves basically the purpose for no one. So this was my key learnings, or my key point from today's meeting. I will just share this. It will be very short. Closing remarks. This is the end of Keep 3. The website is being updated, meaning that part of it has been done. And not everything is done, but it will be in the next, let's say, 10 days. And today you've got an idea of what has been done during the 2.5 years of the project, but this is by no means everything. And even in the report, it will not be everything. It will be everything that has been somewhat successful, I would say, because this is still a research project. So there's plenty of things that we have tried and not pursued. So we have made a nice report, and by we I mean that Kelle has taken care of that. It looks very nice, and we have collected text from a bunch of people. This will also be available on the website. Angelica, I saw that you wrote the newsletter, how to register the newsletter of Trace for Value. We will put it in the next newsletter after it's been published. So will there be a Keep 4? The answer is not in that name and not in that format. The time now is more to, for us, more focused, both more focused project and broad project with a lot of people. So in a sense, Keep is kind of in the twilight zone where it's a little bit too thin, a little bit too broad. So you want to have either less actor, very focused, so a few pilots, or you want to have many people that are kind of very expert in these things at a completely different level. So we will continue our journey with traceability and the digital product path, of course. So the other project that you might want to follow, of course, Trace for Value, the Swedish project on traceability. If you're interested in this and you're in Sweden, you need to follow this one. Yesterday, we presented Trust for Value, which is in Swedish, and there's educational module for companies that want to start their traceability journey. CPAS is an EU project on the implementation of the digital product pass, and the current CPAS finishes next week, the 31st of March. And CPAS 2, which is much more money, much more actors, and much more hands-on work. So there's 13 pilots. There's 2 pilots with actors from Keep. in this. It will start the 1st of May. It's 3 years. So, and until this starts, the CPAS 1 is the place that is good to go. There's a bunch of resources there. They had their final event 2 weeks ago, and it was an 8-hour event, and they have split out on YouTube in 23 videos. Like all the talk have their own videos, and you can download the slides and everything. So it is very good information. This is just I would say I put just the project that are a little bit broader, but there's like a bunch of other projects on traceability that are good to follow. And with that, I would say also, don't hesitate to connect with us on LinkedIn. Angelica, so that you wrote about Trace for Value, but if you want to connect with me, you're also welcome to. I'm very active and I'm promoting a bunch of stuff on traceability. So if you want to keep in touch, you're very welcome to connect with me or with us on LinkedIn. With that, I thank you for today.